Welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Bring you our Arena Football League Week 1 Wraparound, where we're going to take you around all of the games on the Week 1 slate in the Arena Football League, which kicks off its 2013 season this week. But first, let's break down the Orlando Predators and the New Orleans Voodoo. When you look at the road team in this game, the Predators, they come in a lot of turnover, but there's some intriguing storylines. I like the free agent pickup of quarterback Chris Dixon, coming over from the IFL, which is the Indoor Football Leagues, coming over from their champion, the Sioux Falls Storm. This guy's an amazing quarterback, dual threat guy, can do a lot of damage with his legs, and that can go a long way in helping the Predators get to the Arena Bowl championship. He's going to be throwing to a former Voodoo wide receiver in Josh Bush. Bush had over 1,700 yards receiving last year and 37 touchdowns. Now, when you move over to the Voodoo in this game, there's a lot of talent on this roster. They're led defensively by their outstanding nose guard and fan favorite, New Orleans native, Marlin favorite, is going to come in and do a great job on that defensive front. But on offense, you look at Kurt Rocco, the outstanding quarterback. This guy had over 100 touchdowns passing last year with only 17 interceptions. That's getting it done. Definitely a key part to this team. Now, he's going to have to find a new wide receiver to throw to. That's where incoming free agent from the San Antonio Talons, Brent Holmes, come in to play, because he's going to have to make sure he's going to have to fill that hole that was left by Josh Bush, who's now playing with the Predators. And the big matchup in this game will be Brent Holmes, going against Simeon Castile, the outstanding defensive back who was a rookie last year for the Predators, and he led the team in interceptions. So that's a big matchup that Holmes will have to win. When you look at these two teams, you look at two young, exciting rosters, two exuberant fan bases. So I look for the Voodoo to win this game, playing in front of a raucous crowd down there in New Orleans. I like what they bring to the table. The veteran quarterback, yes, he has some new weapons at receiver, but I think that's going to be enough to win this game for New Orleans. Now let's go around the Arena Football Week 1 slate by starting in Pittsburgh as the Pittsburgh Power takes on the Utah Blaze.
Utah travels to Pittsburgh, and armed with the best quarterback in the Arena Football League, Tommy Grady, the Blaze love to play above the rim with wide receiver LJ Castillo, and while Aaron Lasso does all of the damage underneath. These are an outstanding duo of wide receivers, and expect a big season from their defensive end, Caesar Raymond. I think he's going to have an awesome campaign. Now, when you look at the power in this game, they're going to go into the season with two rookie quarterbacks, Jordan Jefferson out of LSU and Shane Austin. But good thing that wide receiver PJ Barry is still on the roster, almost 1,300 yards receiving last year and 18 touchdowns. Now, defensively, I'm a big fan of their secondary. Brandon Freeman, 6'2", 205. Sergio Gillum also at 6'2", and he also had 6 interceptions last year. I like the Blaze in this game. When you have the best quarterback, and we know the Arena Football League is a quarterback-driven league, and you have both of your top receiving options back, they're going to put up a lot of points this season as well. Big game in the state of Florida as Jacksonville takes on Tampa Bay. And when you look at the Sharks, the 2012 South Division champs, they returned sensational quarterback Bernard Morris, but he also has a great offensive line. They are very good, led by Isaac Morales, the talented offensive lineman, and they're equally as talented on their defensive line. I want you guys to keep an eye on rookie defensive lineman Rashard Duncan. I think he's going to have an outstanding year. Now, when you look at Tampa in this game, big splash made in the offseason by signing quarterback Adrian McPherson from the Montreal Alouettes of the CFL, and this is a young team. 10 out of the 24 members on this roster are rookies, led by rookie wide receiver Chris Davis from Florida State. And when you look on the other side, you have wide receiver Greg Ellingson, 6'4", 200 pounds out of Florida International. I think these two guys can have a sensational first year in the Arena Football League. But I'm going with Jacksonville, the reigning South Division champs. Quarterback play is important. I also like the way they play defense. I look for the Sharks to win this one versus their hated rival. Excellent rivalry in the Midwest as Iowa travels to Chicago, and this was a good team last year, the Barnstormers. Despite their record, they struggled to win on the road, but now outstanding quarterback J.J. Redick, 93 touchdowns last season, gets an opportunity with a talented roster to take on a perennial power in the Chicago Rush on the road. What a way to start your season. And when you look at the Rush, defensively, I like what I see. These guys in the secondary boast some superstars, Joe Finesse, Jorrick Calvin, and Samaj Moody. These guys are some of the best in the business. Now, there's slight question marks on offense, but as long as big play Reggie Gray, the wide receiver, is there, Chicago will always have a chance. Not this time, though, as I think the Barnstormers get over the hump and finally go on the road and knock off a good team in Chicago. Let's go down to San Antonio as the Talons take on the San Jose Sabercats. And when you look at San Jose, they go from one future Hall of Famer quarterback in Mark Grebe to another one in Aaron Garcia. I love the new additions with him, Jamarco Simmons at wide receiver, J.C. Neal, the defensive back, and defensive lineman Eric Norwood. Those are some fine additions to this roster, and they're very solid in the secondary already with 8-year vet Clevin Thomas out of Florida State. Now let's look at San Antonio. We're about to find out how good quarterback Danny Southwick can be, as G.J. Kinney, who was supposed to be the starter, was signed by the Philadelphia Eagles. Wide receiver Robert Quiroga is one of the best players at that position in the league, and also Jack linebacker Jamal Ransom. So there's 2 stars on this team that was a very talented bunch last year, one of the best records in the Arena Football League. But this year, it's a different story. I think the Talons take a step back. You can't lose a guy with the caliber of Aaron Garcia. I like San Jose to go on the road and steal one from San Antonio. Another good matchup between Spokane and the Cleveland Gladiators. And when you look at Spokane in this game, you look at their defense. James Ruffin, the defensive lineman, and linebacker Bo Bell, they give the Shock hope this season. On offense, there's a lot expected out of quarterback Eric Meyer, who was supposed to be the starter last season but was injured in week 1 and missed the entire campaign. There's a lot of youth at the receiver position as well, so there's some questions coming into 2013 for the Spokane Shock. Now let's look at the Gladiators in this game. Fresh start for Cleveland, 17 new players on this roster, and we knew about all of the turmoil they had last season, but one of the new faces that's going to have to make an immediate impact will be quarterback Chris Diker. At least he has an outstanding receiving target to throw the football to, in Thyron Lewis, 700 yards receiving almost last year with 12 touchdowns. If they can get this offense clicking early in the season, it's going to give these fans hope that this team can be successful. And I think they do start off on the right foot. The only home team I see winning this weekend outside of New Orleans, I like the Gladiators to knock off Spokane. Too many questions on the Shock right now offensively. Until those questions get answered, I don't feel comfortable picking Spokane, although their defense will have them in this ball game. Now let's go out west where the Philadelphia Soul take on the Arizona Rattlers. And when you look at this Soul offense, they're going to be without Donovan Spider-Man Morgan, who was traded in the offseason to New Orleans. He's going back home and playing in front of the home crowd. But they do bring back Dan Raudabaugh, one of the best quarterbacks in this league, and he will be throwing to a familiar target in Larry Bracken, 6'5", 220 pounds, does a great job of high pointing the football. But the Soul have the best running game in the Arena Football League because they have the best running back in Derrick Ross, a guy that's a big bruiser, 6 feet, 250 pounds, virtually unstoppable near the goal line. Now, when you look at Arizona in this game, the reigning 2012 Arena Bowl champion Arizona Rattlers, led by their outstanding quarterback Nick Davila, who had a sensational campaign last season. And they also returned record-breaking receiver Maurice Purify, a guy that almost had 2,000 yards receiving, finished with 1,932 yards. That offense is going to be, once again, hitting on all cylinders. And that defense was very tough last year. Outstanding defensive secondary led by Virgil Gray, one of the best playmakers in the Arena Football League. And have a very solid defensive front with Antaj Hawthorne up front getting pressure on the quarterback. Huge game right here in week 1. I like matchups like this. I think Philadelphia goes on the road and pulls off the upset. Yes, there's no more Donovan Morgan, but there's enough on offense to put up points with the best of them. I think they're going to utilize that running game with Derrick Ross to come away victorious.